three little moments of evangelization in the parish that I care for. First of all, we have a group of young people who come and live with us for 9 months. And they're young people recently out of university. They come from different parts of the globe. And last week, only about 6 days ago, we made a little pilgrimage. And it was a simple pilgrimage, but it was a pilgrimage both of faith and a pilgrimage of asking for God's blessing for what these young people were going to, or are going to do in the next 9 months. We went to a part of North London called Our Lady of Willesden, which is a very ancient shrine of Our Lady. It dates from about 960, so over 1,000 years of age. It was destroyed at the time of the Reformation, but has been reconstituted. It was a place that Thomas More went to on many occasions, and indeed he was there 2 days before he was put into the Tower of London. We went there and then we started a walk through the centre of London, passing all sorts of things, nice buildings, Islamic centres, places of ill repute, nice canal, all sorts of places. And as we did, myself and the young people who were part of our school of evangelization, we simply prayed the rosary. We prayed it for about an hour and a half. And then we came to a place called Tyburn. And Tyburn is a very significant place for us in London because it's a place where many Catholic martyrs were executed. What happened to them is that they were literally hung at the Tower of London, which is in the city. And then, without having their lives extinguished from them, they were then drawn through the streets and drawn to this place called Tyburn. And as they got to Tyburn, they were literally quartered. The expression, hung, drawn, and quartered. And the skill of the executioner in torturing these Catholic laymen and laywomen and priests was to prolong the death as long as possible, so that you cut off their arms, their legs, they were still breathing, the heart was still working. And the skill of the executioner was to take the heart out when it was still beating. Horrible, horrible, horrible. I don't want to put you off your supper. But a deterrent, would you not agree? A deterrent from someone who says, I want to look after a priest, I want this priest to come and celebrate the sacraments, I want to go to the Mass, I believe that the Pope is the head of the Church. And myself and these young people, having walked from Our Lady of Willesden, we came to Tyburn. And then we prayed a prayer of consecration, and then we knelt down on the site that the tree of Tyburn was, where people were finally executed. If you think a little bit of a pious journey, a journey with the saints, a journey with Thomas More, a journey with Our Lady, a journey with St. Edmund Campion, who was executed there, St. John Southworth, St. Robert Southworth, but it was much more than that. It was asking these young people to understand how precious our faith is and how our faith can unlock the doors of heaven. And then these young people, for the next 9 months, our school of evangelization, which we started in the parish, will give themselves to 9 months of formation in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, of outreach to the poor, of street evangelization, and formation in the spiritual life. Over the last 7 or 8 years, 50 young people have come through our school. It's a simple little act, but it's a response to what John Paul II asked of us. Many of you went to World Youth Day, I'm sure here in Sydney and also in Madrid. One of the things that John Paul II, in challenging the church, he spoke very specifically to bishops and priests. And he said, I want you to go back to your diocese, I want you to go back to your parishes, And I want you to form young people as the disciples of the new evangelization. I want you to form young people as the disciples of a new evangelization. So what is being said to you, what is being said to us bishops and priests, I want you to take young people and to help them to understand the beauty of their Catholic faith, the beauty of what those martyrs died for, the beauty of being able to go out and to evangelize in the streets, the beauty of knowing the Church's teaching on so many important matters. I want you to form young people in the spiritual life. Because if you are going to be strong, if you're going to be committed to your faith, you can't just click your fingers and go on the internet. It's not like that. It requires a deep journey of prayer, of conversion, and of commitment. But remember, the joy that comes from sharing our faith is a joy that the world can never give. Remember how it was when the disciples, when they went out and they saw miracles happening, they called people to faith, and they came back to the Lord rejoicing. They came back full of joy. Remember that beautiful expression that's often been said to us. Joy is like a net with which to catch souls. Some of you may already be at the stage of saying, yes, I am a disciple. Yes, I am ready to share the new evangelization. Some of you may be just searching, looking, knocking on the door. But what I would encourage you, and what we've tried to do in the parish of St. Patrick's, is to be able to form young people who live with us, who join in that wonderful work. England is a pagan country. It's a country full of contradictions. We cannot do what you are doing here this evening, but somehow we have to start somewhere. Some little place to start. Remember how it was at the foot of the cross. It was not full of 300 people. It was a motley crew and the Mother of God. So an invitation to you to join in this wonderful work, but a work that requires of you prayer, it requires of you martyrdom, it requires of you devotion to our Blessed Mother, it requires of you to listen to the voice of the Church. Now this is not a burden. This is truly something that can liberate and to free us. The second part of our journey as a parish is what I would call solidarity with the poor. We live in a world where the Church is being ridiculed. Perhaps not so bad in Australia, but you will see signs of it. Certainly where I come from, the Church is being ridiculed, it's being ignored, it's being marginalized. It's almost as though the Church is in quarantine. The Church that we love, that we're part of, that we want to give our lives to, it's almost as though it has leprosy, according to the public view of things. This is something that we have to be very mindful of. Because if we presume to speak to people from our nice little platform up here, our nice little ivory tower, our nice little religious congregations, and all the institutions that the Catholic Church has many of, people will not listen to us. We can't speak from our ivory tower. And we have to try to understand how it was at the beginning of the Church. What it is that Jesus is telling us when he very deliberately goes out to those who are most ostracized, those who are most rejected, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the poor, the sick. You remember how Mother Teresa always used to put up her hand, her 5 fingers, and she said, "You did it to me. When I was in prison, did you visit me? When I was sick, did you visit me? Insofar as you did this, to one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. In other words, our Lord Jesus deliberately unites himself most closely to those who are most rejected and those who are most pilloried in our society. We are now living in a post-Christian age. We cannot rely upon all the wonderful institutions of a church. We have to ask how it was at the beginning, what it is that our Lord is calling us to. A little story of my life. One of the important parts of my journey as a priest has been working with the Missionaries of Charity, the Sisters of Mother Teresa, and I've been very privileged to be with them in different parts of the world. One of the places that I've been to many times is Ethiopia. It's a historical country, but it's a country of indescribable poverty. Indeed, the sisters will often say that the poverty that they meet in Ethiopia is worse than it is in Calcutta or Mumbai or many other parts of India. And in the big house that the sisters have in the capital called Addis Ababa, it is a place of perhaps 500-600 people. And most of them are dying. Most of them are in the last days of pneumonia, of cancer, of all sorts of hideous diseases. Most of them have AIDS. And you go into this ward and you see in a room this size, you probably see about 200 people in beds, on top of beds, below beds. And you know that many people that night are going to die during the day because you see the blankets over the head and you know that they've died. And one time I was saying to one of the sisters, look, I don't understand this. I can't get my mind around this. Everything in me reacts against this. And she said, Father, let me help you. Once I was standing here with Mother Teresa, with Blessed Teresa of Calcutta, and she turned to me and said, Sister, do not forget ever the privilege that is yours to be here. Sister, do not forget ever the privilege that is yours to be here. Now, what Mother Teresa was saying is that you do not understand, sister. You are here at Calvary. Christ is most present. Christ is most real to these people. Christ is closer to these people than he is to the wonderful cathedrals of our world, our wonderful Catholic schools, our wonderful hospitals. This is where Christ has chosen to be. If you want to see the face of Christ, this is where you need to come. So what does this say to us in the new evangelization? What does this say to us with the responsibility that we have? And it's an invitation. It's an invitation to you, it's an invitation to me. That somehow we have to journey with the poor. Wherever we find the poor, whoever the poor are. And I'm not talking about charity. We can all do charity. We can buy raffle tickets. We can put money in collections. But it's about listening to the voice of God in the poor. I had a difficult experience the other day. There was this fellow who's always on the streets. He's one of those people who says that, you know, my granny's just died and she lived in Dublin, can you give me £50 for the train ticket? And you think, oh, well, you don't get a train to Dublin, you're trying to pull one on me, aren't you? And he's that sort of fellow. He's always drunk or whatever, he's a bit obstreperous. He comes to Mass, but then he leaves just as I start the sermon. So I've got him, you know, got him labelled. But he said to me, Father, can I have a word with you? And he said, Father, do you remember when you were down the road in that restaurant about 2 months ago, and I came in looking for you, and I wanted to ask you a favour?